Um, so most of you did pretty well with question one, the distinction between rhetoric and argumentation. Uh, the, a couple of you struggled with it. The distinction I'm really looking for there is that rhetoric is the big umbrella term, right? Any attempt to influence the thought and or behavior of others falls under the umbrella of rhetoric, whereas argumentation is specifically the sort of cooperative enterprise of using reasons, the exchange of claims and reasons to uh, um, to achieve some sort of desired outcome, or ultimately to as a process of decision making. So argument the in a absolutely boiled down, if you had rhetoric equals persuasion, argumentation equals evidence for claims, I would give you full credit for question one. That was completely boiled down. That's what I was looking for. Uh, Question two, most of you did very well with question two. I think if you read the chapter, you didn't have an issue with question two. Again, the idea there is that in deductive logic, you're dealing with outcomes that are always certain, and in which no new information is available, and there's no necessary reference to the outside world, right? And you can even have um, completely counterfactual references, things that are completely untrue, can still make for a completely valid syllogism. So how useful is that when we're trying to make decisions in an everyday sense? All right, the last three were the three major syllogisms introduced in the chapter. There's a lot of information out there online. I think if you're it seems like maybe some of you maybe struggled with the what was provided in the textbook. If that's the case, if something was not clear in the textbook, please let me know, because I wrote the textbook, and I would always be happy to have that information for a second edition. Um, and so maybe you went to the internet, and some of you maybe got tripped up with what you found on the internet. There's lots of stuff out there on the internet. Some of it is pretty good. Some of it is not as good as that's the internet, right? So the first one, the if-then, or the conditional syllogism, almost all of you, if you finished it, you did great with it. The biggest issue that I ran into is many of you provided an antecedent and a consequent. You provided an if statement and a then statement, but then you didn't take the next step, which is you have to then have a second premise that either affirms the antecedent or denies the consequent, right? Those are the only two valid things you can do in a conditional syllogism. You can either affirm the antecedent or deny the consequent, affirm the if statement or deny the then statement. A couple of you provided conditional syllogisms that actually bend those rules a little bit. There is an if and only if antecedent sometimes, and that was implied in a couple of yours. If something is if and only if, you can then actually deny the antecedent and still have a valid syllogism. So something like um, uh, humans can uh, humans will live if and only if they continue. A human will live if and only if they continue to breathe. So and so did not continue to breathe, therefore so and so did not live. That's a very dark one. I apologize. I don't know why that's what came to mind. Um, uh, so those are rare. Only a couple of you had those, and I gave you credit for those. But generally speaking, affirm the antecedent, deny the consequent, makes for a valid if-then syllogism. The syllogism that you all struggled with the most is the categorical. And again, just going back to there's a whole bunch of rules. There's rules about distribution and what must be distributed in a different kind of categorical syllogism. Major premises and minor premises. This is not a class on formal logic, and so I didn't want to get too far into the weeds with that. And so the tool that I provide in the textbook is just drawing pictures. When I ran into a syllogism, a categorical syllogism that you provided, and I was like, that doesn't seem right, I would try to draw the picture. And if I couldn't draw the picture, I couldn't draw the diagram, I had to conclude that it was not a valid syllogism, most of the time because it didn't give you enough information. It brought up too many variables, and so you just didn't know where to put it. So I would just encourage you, when you're coming up with a categorical syllogism, see if you can draw it, right? Draw the diagram. If you can draw the diagram and you know where to mark that conclusion, that final statement, then you should be in good shape. If you don't know where to mark it, then it's probably not a valid syllogism. Revise it until you know exactly where to do it. And there's nothing wrong with just having a very simple one, right? Those of you that had simple ones, I think, tended to do a little bit better with that question. The last one, the either or the disjunctive syllogism, you all had a pretty good, did a great job with that. I don't think many people got that one wrong. That one is pretty simple, either this one or that one, and you choose one or the other. So I really don't have much more to say about that. Yeah, the important thing with that one is that the two options have to be mutually exclusive. But like I said, you all did well with that. Okay, again, let me know if you have any questions. But that's quiz 3 in a nutshell.